Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network, and it's episode 921. That is right, we are on the road to 1,000. We are here with 921. Today, we have professional actress, graphics artist, and a vocalist. Won't say who it is. You'd be very surprised. I'm looking forward to it. Tune in, hit that bell icon, and let's jump right into it.
Mascott. I'm an actor and voice artist and vocalist and graphic artist, and I was just interviewed by Keith Andrews, and it was really, really fun. I suggest you tune in, check him out, like and subscribe.
Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and the type of work that you do now.
Sure. Hi, I'm Christine Mascott. I am an actor, a voice actor, a vocalist, a graphic artist, and a lot of my time lately has been taken up with being an audiobook narrator.
Nice. And have you ever thought about ghostwriting?
Ghostwriting? I don't really write that much myself. I tend to just read what other people write. But I do have a couple of screenplay ideas that maybe someday I'll get a chance to produce. Of course, they would be, me in the lead kind of things. But yeah, I have a couple of ideas, but I haven't really delved into writing that much yet.
No, absolutely. And if you're interested, once my book is out, I was thinking about doing an audio book, and you have a perfect voice. I would love to have you work on that.
Sure. There's lots of ways to make audiobooks, and when you are ready, we will talk about that.
Absolutely. First, reach 1,000, then I can reach my other goal.
Oh, wow.
As you've seen on Facebook and Instagram, these people are like, oh, give me 2 minutes of your time, give me 15 minutes. I can get you featured on Fox, CNN. And I'm like, okay, I'm not at that point yet, even though I do have a strong message. Okay, let's see what they're saying. Every one of them send me, do you have a book? Do you have a book? Okay, let's get to 1,000. And then we can say, I have something to talk about. Because 1,000 sounds like a solid number, and it's perfect, goes with the story. But this is not about me. This is about you.
No, but I know exactly what you mean. You need a body of work to be able to say, I can now speak to people about this. For me, audiobook narrating is such a new thing, and I'm slowly developing my body of work. And I finally felt about the past month or so that I had enough solid foundation on my resume to move on and kind of look for bigger publishers to take me on their rosters and things like that. So I know exactly what you mean. You have to build up to stuff. You can't, sometimes people think that, you just decide to do something one day and then it's done and you can just jump in and do it even though you've never done it before. And I'm a big believer in experience and the teaching of that, and that you build up to the big things. You prepare yourself for that moment when you're ready to take that big step. Anyway. I
agree. And the next thing I want to ask you is, you also mentioned you're a graphics artist. So what can you tell us about that?
I dabble. I've been in a couple of exhibitions and stuff. A couple of years ago, I decided to do this little project where I wanted to make a piece of digital art every day for a year and post it online. So if you go to my graphic arts page, there are 365 pieces of digital art over the course of the year. And one thing that I did not know when I started it in the fall that I did a couple of years ago, that it would then encompass COVID year 1. So it ended up being a very interesting art project in that way, where it really documented shutdown for me and everything. And not that the art is sad or disturbing or anything, but it was just like every single day it kind of channeled what I was feeling that day a little bit into the colors I used and the feeling I made. And some of them are beautiful and light, and some of them are a little darker, but they're all a little bit abstract and surreal.
I agree. And the last one on the keynotes that I do want to talk to you about is, you mentioned you're a voiceover, and you do overs, like voiceovers,
Yes.
and you're a professional singer.
Yes. I use my voice a lot. It is really distinctive, I've been told. and and it really works for audiobook narration. And I do some commercial voiceover too. And this year I am the voice. Well, I was last year too. I did one ad for, and this year I did many ads for a big name brand that is well known for their Easter candy. So I am their voice this year. And those commercials are not out yet. So I'm not going to say who the company is, but you may be able to figure it out.
Oh, the first thing that popped in my head was the rabbit.
Was which?
Oh, the rabbit, Cadbury's, right?
They are kind of known for their Easter candy, aren't they?
I think the best commercial I ever seen from them. I don't. They probably have a lot, but the one that stands out the most is where they have the auditions with the animals.
Oh, of
And
course. Of course. I was really, I'm disappointed I can't go bok 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 at the camera. But no. That yeah, you might have figured it out. I'm not telling.
I'm not religious or anything, but we celebrate Passover, and we had a great dinner once, and we finished it, and it was time for dessert. I walk over, telling you a little funny story. You haven't noticed, well, on my part. Anyway, so we had a Passover dinner, and we're having cake, and I went to the closet, and I came out with this handful of peeps, and my dad says to me with a straight face, "I think you're real confused what holiday you're celebrating."
I could see that.
That's like, hey, hey, there's always room for Jello. Well, in my case, hey, there's always room for peeps.
Absolutely. I'm not a big Peeps fan myself, but there is one friend that well, I don't know, marshmallowy, I don't know. They're a little sweet for me. But I have a friend that every single Easter on her social media, it just goes all Peeps all the time. She shares meme after meme with the Peeps on them. So I like them on that level, but to eat them, I've never been the biggest fan of Peeps. I don't know.
They're
I
really
probably
good.
shouldn't say that. I'll never get a commercial for them.
You're right. Yeah, I for me under the bus. Yeah, they're kind of like diabetes in a box, but they're really good.
Yeah. I diabetes is something I was super concerned with until this past year, actually year and a half now. I've lost quite a bit of weight and gotten my blood sugar under control. And everybody always asks me how I did it. And it was being sensible. It's like diet and exercise, nothing special, no fads. It's a change in lifestyle. So
Well,
that's what I say.
you look great, number one, and
Oh, thank you.
you lost it, and I found it. My brother says I'm a fat neck.
Well, you got to start walking and just being sensible. Like before when I was a lot heavier, I lost many sizes. And when I was a lot heavier, I wouldn't police what I ate. And I wouldn't have one cookie, I'd have 10, So now I have one or two cookies and I'm still, you just eat sensibly and exercise. Yoga has been amazing for me. And I do about 20 minutes a day. It's not crazy. And walking. Um, I can't walk right now. I'm on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. And right now outside there's like ice
Yeah.
everywhere. So I can't really walk right now. But as soon as that melts, and it's actually supposed to kind of melt tomorrow, I'm going to be back out walking about 4 miles a day if I can.
Well, I'm all about like, have you ever been to anywhere in the New York area? Like in the
Oh, sure. I
upstate?
lived in New York City for 11 years.
All right, so from New York, we're about an hour and a half. So for us, we're known and famous for the Catskills and Woodbury Commons.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we have ice. And it's like I said, it's like an ice skating rink out there. It's hard to walk my dog. Well, my dad's dog, family
Yeah.
dog, but at the end of the day, you could fall on your ass.
Oh, totally.
I
Yeah.
hate
And
ice.
and not all our winters here are like this. This has been a
Yeah.
particularly cold and a particularly icy, wet winter. So things are changing, for sure. Uh, so I've actually been looking into maybe relocating to LA, where it's much warmer. I was just out there for a couple of weeks shooting a film, and I was able to walk again. And I was like, this is it. This is what I want. I don't want any weather to interfere with my walking. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of toying with it, maybe in the fall.
My brother always talked about moving to LA. I thought about it too. Actually, to be honest, I wanted to move to Canada. There's something about living in Toronto had a nice name, but I hate the snow. I mean, the snow is all right, but I hate the ice. I hate the ice as a
Yeah.
passion. And it's like, why do
And
you
it's
want to?
colder up there.
It is. It's a lot worse, but it's
It's a
still
lot colder.
nice. But it's
But
nice.
they're used to it. So I don't think people, in up in like Buffalo and the places that get really cold in upstate New York too, all those people, they're used to it. They're used to moving snow around and they don't mind. But here on Cape Cod, we can have all different kinds of winters. There's really mild ones where we don't get any snow at all, and the plants don't even know that winter happened. And then we get winters like this where it goes into the single digits, and it's anyway. So I would like to. I'm starting to get older and feel the winters more. So maybe somewhere warmer would be good.
I agree with you 100%. Now, the question I want to ask you before, when we were off the air, and I did want to bring it up, is how
Mhm.
has the pandemic impacted your career and have you benefit from it?
The pandemic has greatly affected my career. When everything shut down, I was doing a lot of on-camera work. I was traveling places a lot to do screen work, and when everything shut down, all of the shooting shut down as well for a while. And what did come back eventually was very, very closely regulated in terms of quarantines and testing, and it was a very involved process. So there weren't a lot of productions that booted up during that because the expenses were so large and the logistics were crazy. So that being said, everything stopped. And for a long time, I'd been doing a little bit of voice work, but always somewhere else. And so with the instrument I have, it always seemed like a logical place to go um, for my kind of work to find a niche. And so with my COVID money, I invested in my business, in myself, and my studio. And I took the time to learn a new niche craft, which is audiobook narrating. So everybody thinks acting is just something you stand in front of a microphone and you read a book. Well, it's not like that. And doing a commercial, it's not just talking into a mic. There's a lot behind it, including technical expertise. So I had a learning curve. And so I used that time off to learn a completely new niche. And it's something that I can do from my home or in a studio someplace, depending on what the work demands. Um, and it's something that will never stop, even with the pandemic and social distancing. I'm alone here in my booth. This is where I work every day, creating character after character. And it's wonderful. And as an actor, having steady work every single day from your house where you create all of the characters in the book, the men, the women. I always say I play the heroine, her daughter, her mother, and her grandmother all in the same day. And it's a wonderful, creative, fulfilling work. And I am very excited to be doing it. And in this last year that I've been professionally doing it and releasing books, I've done right now about 25 titles, which is a lot for being kind of a newish narrator. And I just got added to the rosters of two very respectable audiobook production companies. One of them is the largest producer of independent audiobooks in the world. So I'm really excited to be on their roster. And it's kind of like a stamp of approval too when you send your stuff and they say, yeah, you're good enough to come work with us. So that's really great. And I had an audition last week for one of what they call the Big Five. There are five large publishing companies in the world. and they all produce audiobooks, and they all have tons of books they need made into audiobooks. So I had an audition on last Thursday with one of the big five. And I think it went really well. Don't want to jinx it, knocking on wood. But I'm kind of hoping that maybe I'll get an email sometime this week.
No, absolutely. I always thought about building my own sound booth. For me, I always have to jump through hoops. I work around my dad's schedule. I work around my brother's schedule. I work around the dog's schedule. Funny enough, it would be funny if it wasn't true. But I always work around people's schedules. And once I'm like, okay, I have my alone time. I can get to do what I want to do. There's always something about interest. Like, oh, God damn it. It's like I have to, you ever notice when someone asks you to do something? Oh, of course, you have to drop whatever you want to do. But when you ask somebody, hey, can you do this? You have to actually twist their arms like, well, I did you a favor. Why can't you do me? Anyway, it's.
Exactly. I always seem to be the person that gets asked for the favors too. And I, through my life, was really, really bad at saying no. And one of the things I discovered as I got older was that I needed to say no sometimes, and just take the time for me. And that I was deserving of my own time. Everybody else, oh no, I'm deserving of your time. I'm deserving of your time. And it came to a point where I said, no, who's most deserving of my time? Me. And not that I deprive other people of my time, because I'm still a very generous person, but I do set more boundaries now than I used to, I think.
That's true. Actually, well, I'm going to ask you a question that I not always ask, but maybe I should start. It's your film. When you first started your acting career, your narration career, anything in your career, was your family supportive of you?
Oh boy, no. No, they had to be one, and I'm still not sure they entirely understand me. But yeah, no, they didn't get it. My family are wonderful people. But they're very traditional, and they're very, you 9-to-5 job, and you put in your dues, and you work for a company, and you grow, and that very wonderful American dream. I'm a third generation immigrant of Portuguese, Irish, and Italian ancestors, although the Irish have been here a little longer. And so my hardworking family didn't quite get that, acting is something you do as a hobby. It's not something you do as your life. So they didn't understand that as an artist, sometimes you don't have a choice. It's what you do. It's who you are. And you can't be happy unless that is what you are actively doing. For me, if I'm not creating something, if I'm not performing for people in some way, I don't feel as whole. So that's something they didn't quite get. And I forgive them for that. And in later years, there were times when they were supportive. When I first got my union card, they thought that was for SAG-AFTRA. My family thought that was the be all end all. Like, that's when they finally said, okay, you're a professional, even though I'd been working for years, and there were other times they've been supportive and kind of cheered me on a little bit too, but I don't think they still quite understand me.
I can definitely relate to that. I know I talked about it all 30 years, but we can definitely talk about it off the air. But the next one I want to ask you is, besides me, and I'm thankful for this, have you worked with people with disabilities? And for people who have learning disabilities who want to follow in your footsteps, either as an actress or learning narration, how can they go about it?
I have worked with people. I'm trying to remember all of them, because there have been a bunch of instances. But I occasionally will do background work on a film to pick up some extra cash here and there. And I was you can see me go by in the background in a couple of scenes there, in the film Coda, that just scored at the SAG Awards last night, nominated for an Oscar. And that entire film is filled with people who are deaf, the hearing impaired. So there's that. I did background on Sound of Metal as well, which is also for the hearing impaired. And years ago, I worked at a summer camp teaching kids theater. And I started in theater. And there were a couple of kids there that had disabilities. And one I remember was particularly musical. And it was an arts camp. And there's a great rock band program. And this kid flourished. He was challenged, but when he took the stage in front of a rock band, you'd never know. He was magnificent. So at the camp, and I'm sure there've been others along the way that I'm just not recalling at the moment. What I would say to anybody who, challenged or not, who wants a career in the arts and acting in particular, is to get training. A lot of people think you just stand in front of a camera and act, and it's not that at all. There's a lot of technique that goes behind every bit of being an actor, on stage, in a microphone, on screen. So get training. Start there.
No, absolutely. And now I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier. You mentioned you did 25 books. Now, for me, when I think about audiobooks, I think of James Patterson, not in that way, obviously, but, I think of James Patterson and Clancy Brown. And I think Clancy Brown, I want to get back to that. Tom Clancy, and you talk about James Patterson. There's so many great ones that come to mind. Have you worked with, or would you love to work with any of them? And
I would work for almost any author, really. I think what they do is amazing. I love stories. I love all kinds of stories. Because I have kind of a sultry voice, the romance genre often hires me. So I do a lot of romance novels. I almost think I've ended up in kind of the soap operas of the audiobook world, because it's all, the beautiful love scenes every day, I love all authors. Would I love to work with like a Stephen King or a really big name? Of course, who wouldn't? I would love a great piece of literature, because I started, like I said, in theater, and I'm a classically trained actor. So I started touring, doing Shakespeare and Moliere. And one of the reasons I do audiobooks is because I love the taste of words. And so I love really well-crafted stories too. So I would, the more I do, the more experience I get, the more high profile my gigs will be, and probably, I'll get better and better literature to read. I did one book. I self-produced my own audiobook using public domain stories. There are 10 stories, mostly by women. And it's called Marriage from the Feminine Perspective. And it's 10 classic short stories. So I did that myself. And so I really, I love literature. But right now, I'm voicing, tonight I'll be doing the last night on a 6-book series that is paranormal romance. Shifters. I don't know if you've ever, anyway, Dragon Shifters. And then I'm doing, starting tomorrow or the next day, I will be beginning the second book of a 6-book thriller series that I'm doing that is like a paranormal thriller. So I love all kinds of books.
No, that sounds absolutely amazing. And if you want me to promote them for you, I'm more than happy to.
Super.
And I do have some great ideas off the air. Sorry, I just had like a brain fart. You ever notice when you go to say something and you easily get distracted and you just forget what you say? So while you're talking.
All the time.
So you're talking and it just randomly cuts off. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but it's too late to take it back.
Yeah, all the time.
So the last one I want to ask you is social media. Are you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter? How can our fans and listeners get in touch with you?
I am on all of those. ChristineMascott.com is my website. And from there, it links out to all of my social media. Those little icons at the bottom of the page. And then you can also find out more about me. There's samples of my my audiobook narration. A lot of my audiobooks, I wouldn't say a good portion of them, actually in the romance genre, are under a pseudonym. So if anyone wants those, they're gonna have to message me and I'll tell you what those are. Because I don't have them connected to my regular stuff. Yeah, I would say that the best place, and I know it's where the old people hang out, but on
Thanks.
Facebook, on Facebook, there's a Christine Mascott actor, narrator, voice artist page that you can follow for all my news. And but I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on TikTok. When I was out in California, I just did this thing where I was working on a film. And I was there to kind of just experience California because I hadn't been there much before. And just on tour, kind of passing through. And I did this thing with a hashtag California Streamin'. And I documented my whole 2-week trip. So I go to these great iconic places and I take you on my film set and I do a bunch of TikTok videos and there's Instagram posts and stuff. So look for that hashtag if you want kind of a little fun 2-week adventure out in LA.
No, absolutely. And now the last question I want to ask you is, with everything that you accomplished in your career, what are some of the best success stories you have?
Oh, there's been a lot. And it all depends on how you define success, I think, too. I would say my most notable credit would be I had a scene in a Woody Allen movie with Joaquin Phoenix. So that's my biggest credit. And then the second biggest would be directed and acted with Ricky Gervais in a movie called The Invention of Lying. And the Woody Allen movie is Irrational Man. I'm proud of a lot of it. I was on the Grammy ballot in 2002 for Best Female Rock Vocalist for my solo album then. It was a little bit kind of sidetracked by the events of the day because it was released immediately after September 11th. So Nobody was really paying attention much then. But it got a lot of critical notice and I'm very, very proud of that. I'm proud of a band that I formed, a Woodstock era tribute band called Groovy Afternoon that I ran for a lot of years and I sang like Janis Joplin. People really, really loved it. I loved performing that particular show. So yeah, those are some of my highlights. But there's a lot. I've had a very interesting and eclectic career.
And my last question for you, wrapping up our show, I want you to be brutally honest. When I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what made you say yes? How do you feel now? And would you recommend it to other people?
I would definitely recommend it to other people. You're great. How did I feel at first? Curious as to what your show is about. And I went to your website and took a look and was very impressed with what you're doing. And felt very comfortable saying yes. And I've had a great time today. So yeah, of course I would tell anybody to come and do it.
No, absolutely. No, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the notification. You'll be notified of brand new episodes of the Keith Andrew Network up and available. This will also be featured on LinkedIn. We have our own LinkedIn fan page. Definitely send you a friend page, send you an invite to like it on that. So we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. So many great social media websites. There's a couple other ones I'm working on. But until we meet again, catch you later. Thank you and have a good night.